Alright everyone, so today is going to be a continuation of my swing lean series in which we go into the various swing and lean states for the 2020 presidential election to determine which way those states will go. And today we're going to be looking at a bit of an out there one, but there's a lot of it in the ether about Texas being a purple state now. So we're going to be looking at the state of Texas. If you'd like to see more videos like this of state predictions, Senate predictions, and general election predictions, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. I have plenty of those coming up, and I have a few of those made already. So we're going to be looking at the state of Texas. First, we're going to look at the 2016 presidential election results. Donald Trump got 52.2% of the vote in Texas as opposed to Hillary's 43.2%. Now, if we look at the change from 2012, a lot of rural Texas trended toward the Republicans, but also at the same time, a lot of urban and suburban Texas trended away from the Republicans and toward the Democrats. Some key areas we're going to look at is the Houston area in Harris County. This was a county that Mitt Romney almost won back in 2012 with 49.3% of the vote, to now in 2016, in which Donald Trump only has 41.6% of the vote out of this county. So Harris County was once a very big swing county in Texas. Now it seems to be a reliably blue county, at least according to this election result. If we go to Dallas, this is another county. Democrats have always done fairly well in Dallas, but if you'll notice, there's been an increase in Democratic votes, but actually a decrease in Republican votes. Dallas has been getting rapidly more blue as more people move into the city from other places like California, and as the demographics tend to favor the Democrats more in terms of age, race, etc. Fort Worth, Tarrant County is another county that trended a lot towards the Democrats. Republicans, again, lost votes here. They got 3,000 less votes, almost on the dot, than they did in 2012, and the Democrats increased their margins by around 2 points. And of course, Austin, this area is always Democratic, but Williamson County, a suburban county, both sides increased their vote shares, just Republicans have been growing a lot slower in that area. And in places like San Antonio, another area that's trended a lot more Democratic, with Republicans actually losing votes. So Republicans seem to have a real problem, at least according to the 2016 election. Based on these results, and again we'll look at 2012, and the changes from 2012, it's quite stark. Dallas County was a 16-point Democratic county. That's kind of been that way for the since 2008. If we go back to 2016, however, there's a much wider margin, around 26 points. So a huge victory. Tarrant County, 51-43. If we go to 2012, 57-41. So a lot has changed. Tarrant County tends to vote close to the margin of the state, and it seems to have done that in both cases. But these areas have starkly changed. Harris County, again, we can look at from Romney almost winning it to going back to Trump losing it by 14 points. And this kind of backs up the theory for some arguing that Texas is now competitive, that there was a huge erosion of Republican support in 2016. And then, of course, a lot of people point to the 2018 results as a huge death nail for the Republican Party, saying this is it, the Republicans are done in Texas. I'd like to point out, though, that Ted Cruz still won his race by a considerable amount. Also, keep in mind, Ted Cruz got around 400,000 less votes than... Oh, I can't do math. Oh, that is 400. He got around 400,000 less votes than Donald Trump did in 2016, whereas Beto O'Rourke outperformed Hillary by, I think, 100,000 or so. If you look at the county-by-county results, Harris County was around the same, only with a lot more Democratic support, nearly 700,000 votes going for Beto O'Rourke. Tarrant County actually flipping to the Democrats. That's the first time it has since a statewide Democrat won. I believe in 1994 was the last time a statewide Democrat won in Texas. But Tarrant County flipped blue, albeit barely. And of course, Denton and Collin County, these counties that were once very, very Republican, are now on the brink of being competitive. So all in all, there was a huge blue shift from 2012 to 2016 to 2018. But the 2018 midterm is a bit misleading because this is, again, a midterm, and Ted Cruz was not the most popular incumbent. But the Beto O'Rourke election did have a down ballot effect. If we go down not that, we're going to look at that later. But for the lieutenant governor's race, same thing, a race within 5 points. This is very close for Texas standards. The attorney general election and other statewide races all came very, very close, and that is because of the down ballot effect of Beto O'Rourke. The one exception to this is the governor's race, where incumbent Governor Greg Abbott, who was very popular, won the state pretty handily. He got around the same amount of votes as Donald Trump did back in 2016, and Lupe Valdez, his opponent, got less votes than Hillary Clinton did in 2016. So overall, Greg Abbott did very well. This is still a smaller margin than he won back in 2014, which I believe was over 20 points. This is only a 13-point margin, so this is a much smaller margin, but still a big victory in comparison to the other races. But what does this prove about Texas, and what makes Texas so competitive? Well, we can go to demographics as one reason. If we look at the population of Texas, only 41.4% of the population is white alone, 39.6% is Hispanic or Latino, and 11% African American. Keep those numbers in your head as we look at the exit polls. And we go to race, only 57% of the Texas electorate is white. However, they make up the largest percentage of the votes for Trump, 69% to 26%. The Latino population, again, the Latino population in Texas is much more conservative than the rest of the country. If I were to show you a national exit poll, Donald Trump only won about 28% of Latinos, but he won 34% of Latinos in the state of Texas. Hillary Clinton, 61%. Now, this is significant because the Latino population does not vote at the population or the proportion that they make up of the state. If that had been the case, this state would probably be a blue state. So it's the fact that Republican voters turn out and white voters in Texas overwhelmingly make up the backbone of the Republican Party in the state. Also, if you go by age bracket, the younger generations, obviously more liberal than their older counterparts, 25 to 29, there's a 10-point deficit. In 18 to 24, there is a massive deficit of nearly 26 points between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump's support. So that bodes bad news for Republicans in the future of the state as it becomes more urban. As white voters make up a lesser share of the state, it's really going to have an impact on it. But if we take a look at these exit polls and keep these in mind for a second, again, these exit polls reflect this result, 52 to 43%. If we go to the 2018 exit polls, they show a much less stark divide because Beto O'Rourke has much broader appeal among all the demographics. If we go to men, 56 to 43. If we go back to men, 57-37. So again, but this is a different electorate, keep in mind. This is a midterm electorate with higher Democratic turnout, lower Republican turnout. Of course, if we go down to race, whites made up slightly less, a point less of the electorate. However, they were much more supportive of Beto O'Rourke, 69 to 26 in 2016, 66 to 34. Latino support actually increased for Ted Cruz, but it also increased for Beto O'Rourke. So the key to keeping Texas naturally with these demographics is to erode the Democratic vote away from Latinos. Now, that's easier said than done. That's actually a very hard thing to do, but it is possible, as we're going to see right now. If we go to the governor's race, Greg Abbott's race. Now, keep in mind, Greg Abbott's race was a 55-42 margin. So this is a 13-point margin, but these are the results from that race. So 60% of men supported Abbott to 36. 50, so he won the female vote by 3 points. But if we go to race as well, he got 42% of the Latino vote. Now, those are the types of margins you need among groups. And 15% of the black vote. These are the kinds of margins you need to keep Texas a red state. So for Republicans, that's something they're going to need work on. But the point of this video is to determine whether Texas is competitive in 2020. And as of now, it does not look like it's going to be very competitive. If you look at polls, and I haven't pulled up any polls right now, but the most recent polls have Donald Trump up ahead by 7 points again, And if you go to 538 and you actually do the A- and A+ polls, they have a larger difference between the candidates. There's a lot of polls that are rated like C that have Trump and Biden tied because they're not good polls. They're not very reliable. The RCP average I wouldn't really focus on because RCP did not really accurately predict many races in the past. There are some where it wildly differs. What I'm thinking of mostly is the Wisconsin race in 2016. For the presidential race, Hillary was up by 4. She might have been up as high as 6, I think. And then the result ended up being 0.7 Trump. Anyway, looking at these results, Texas is still going to be a lean red to likely red state in 2020. But for the future of the state, that bodes a different question of whether Democrats are going to make significant gains in the state. Based on the way suburbs have been trending, and urban areas, it would make sense to conclude that Democrats are going to be more competitive until one day they overreach Republicans. Because as we saw with the 2012 to 2016 election results, Democrats are making up ground in Republican strongholds, and the Republican vote is staying relatively steady, if not declining. Now, this is the 2016 election, keep in mind. And once Donald Trump is out of the picture, say in 2024, it's much harder to predict whether Texas will swing more back to the right now that Donald Trump is out of office, or if they will continue to make that leftward shift. Because the demographics of Texas have not changed a whole lot from 2020 to 2012, and the results are starkly different. These are very, very different results, and you could say there's been a lot of get out the vote efforts, etc. But I think it's still possible, and as we saw with the Greg Abbott results too, it's very possible for Republicans to remain dominant in the state with the right strategy. They have to make sure that they don't alienate like Latino voters, which they're going to need to win statewide elections. But anyway, that's a quick overview looking at the prospects of a competitive Texas. My final conclusion is that Texas is not yet competitive in the 2020 election. I still think Donald Trump is going to win this state by around 7 to 8 points. You could say I'm wrong, but I think come election day you're going to see a much wider margin than the polls are bearing out. Again, there were many polls that had Trump and Hillary nearly tied in this state back early on in May and June of 2016, and those polls turned out to be inaccurate. Of course, the polls got more accurate as the election went on, to the point where Trump was actually leading by more than he won by. But the third-party vote did play a huge role in the 2016 election, and I'm assuming a lot of Republicans may have voted for the third party thinking that Texas was a safe red state anyway, so they would vote for the candidate they wanted. But in order for Texas to be a reliably red state, Republicans are going to have to include their outreach to the Hispanic community to try to win over suburban voters and try to increase margins in urban areas. But ultimately, Texas is not going to be competitive. I think it's a bit misleading to look just at the midterm election results, the Beto O'Rourke Senate race, and say that now Texas is on the brink of changing. I don't think that is the case. I think that's a very shallow analysis because you have to look at broader trends, as we did in this video, going over several cycles and looking at the exit polls and analyzing which candidates did better in what group. So ultimately, it depends on a number of factors, but I see a Biden versus Trump race. Trump either winning by 9 points or a little bit less, 7 or 8. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching this video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please comment down some video ideas below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.